It's another hot day over here in Louisiana. Gracie's over here, laid out, not a care in the world. She's always never too far behind me. So for today, I thought that it would be a good idea to talk about my hospitalization while pregnant. I know I'm skipping a few of my hospitalizations. I know I've discussed my first one before, but it was very different being pregnant in the unit. They definitely, I guess you could say, looked at you different. Because you're pregnant, you're supposed to be happy. You're supposed to be this, you're supposed to be that. And in reality, you just want to curl up into a little ball and scream. So, without further ado, my hospitalization while pregnant. So, I was about 15 weeks whenever I first was hospitalized during my pregnancy. And I had on and off contractions. I had on and off bleeding. They told me, though, if it got to the point where it was very bad, they were going to bring me into the hospital. But I was okay. I spotted like a little bit, and it wasn't that bad. And it was kind of nice. I was roomed with another girl, and we became friends and everything. I usually end up making friends in the hospital because it's a lot nicer to go through it with someone else. You know, you could be like, misery loves company or whatever. But the reality of it was that it was a lot easier on me, and it was a lot more therapeutic because then I could talk to somebody else who understood, who got that you were, trying to heal, and that it was, an emotional time. So the first time whenever I was pregnant, it was actually, this is how it went. I decided I was going to go in because I was suicidal, and I didn't want to hurt my baby. I just wanted to hurt myself, but there was no way I could hurt myself without hurting my baby. So, and I knew that. And so I decided to take the leap and go into the hospital voluntarily. So my nurse practitioner at the time, she's no longer my nurse practitioner. She decided to get another job somewhere else, which makes me a little sad. But she understood, and she knew me well enough to know that if I say that I am going to go into the hospital this afternoon, that means I'm going into the hospital this afternoon. So she was able to trust me because I didn't want to be PEC'd. If I was PEC'd, that means I was involuntarily brought in, and I wouldn't be able to sign myself out. So I wanted to sign myself in. That way, if things went to hell again, I could sign myself out, because I never was able to have that ability because I was always PEC'd. Sorry, I got kicked off. So I wanted to be able to sign myself in. And I did that. It took me a couple of days, though, because they would have a bed available, and then they wouldn't. And then they would have another bed available, and then they wouldn't. And because I was not PEC'd, I was voluntary, I did not come first. PEC'd came first. If somebody was coming from the hospital, they would come first because they were considered higher risk than I was. So it took me about 2 or 3 days, and you can imagine how that went. Going to the hospital, stressing out, crying, everything, saying goodbye to your loved ones, to your pets, to your dogs. You know, I had to say goodbye to Gracie. She's hot. And that was so difficult to keep having to go back and forth, back and forth. And I don't want to ever have to do it like that again. It was terrible. But anyway, so I go into the hospital, and I make friends, and we drew a lot. I remember coloring a lot. And I didn't know what I was having then. I didn't know if I was having a boy or a girl. And I remember writing in block letters their names. If it was going to be a boy, we were going to name him William. And if it was a girl, it was going to be Emma. So I remember writing their names all the time and coloring it and just daydreaming about getting out. And that was fine, but guys, whenever I first walked into the psych ward, they had a girl on the floor. Okay, a girl on the floor screaming that she was not okay. And a tech was right there, and I'm over here with my bag, and I'm in paper scrubs, and I'm just like, what the fuck did I just walk into? What did I just do to myself? What on earth is going on here? It was difficult. I ended up not seeing that girl again for several days, and then she came out, and we actually talked to each other, and I learned that she had a psychotic episode, and she was freaking out a little bit, on the floor. She had punched a wall, and they were about to have to restrain her, but then I walked in, and I witnessed all of it. So that's what happened. And we ended up, like I said, becoming pretty good friends afterwards. I will warn you though, sometimes you cannot be friends with people that you were friends with in the hospital. It doesn't work out. It just, you're crazy and they're crazy might just not match, okay? Like, everybody got a little bit of crazy in them, okay? And it just might not match. So anyway, that time, whenever I was hospitalized, I stayed in for about a week, I want to say. And it was slow. It was so slow. It took forever. And I was really happy whenever they finally let my husband come visit me. Because we had certain days where you have someone come visit for an hour. You had to sit across the table from them, and I couldn't even hold my husband's hand. And because they were like, you could sneak her stuff, and I'm like, what's he gonna sneak me? Like drugs, alcohol, what? Like, I think we need a little bit more than that, but anyway, it was difficult. I'll say difficult. So that time, it went by very slowly. Well, all the times it usually goes by very slowly. The second time, I was around 25 weeks. I found out that I was having a girl, and again, I was suicidal. Now, keep in mind that you might be like, what's going on here? Why is this a trend with you? Well, I was off my medicine then. And now I know I'm having some problems with suicidal ideation now. but I'm also getting used to a new medication. So it does happen with my medication changes, or if I'm completely off my medication because I'm pregnant. So I had a girl that bunked with me, and it was so. This time I was not in psych. They put me in rehab, y'all. I was big and pregnant in rehab. Rehab. They had people who were coming off their high all the way around me. Hey guys. Sorry, I got something in my eye. Oh. Hey guys. So, I'm back. It's a new day, but I'll continue the story. Everybody kept walking out and talking to me, so I had to stop recording. Oh, excuse me. So, they put me at 25 weeks in rehab. And it was very dangerous. I would say that. Because last time they put me in rehab, my roommate almost OD'd. It was very, it was very strenuous, I would say, because you were constantly being pushed. But yeah, they had people who were, coming off their highs. People were getting frustrated. People were, wanting to fight each other. And I'm big and pregnant. Now, the good thing is that, basically everybody, what's a good word to use? They didn't judge me so badly, I would say, in rehab. They didn't. Now, once I told them, they were like, what you in here for? Because, they're all asking, they're all wondering, and they see I'm big and pregnant. And somebody actually had the balls to come and ask me. And I was like, oh, I'm a psych patient. And they were like, oh, okay. And they were still like, well, what's going on, Chad? And I was like, well, I ain't been myself, and I want to hurt myself, but I don't want to hurt my baby. So I came in. Again, I was voluntary because I did not want to be PEC'd. And one thing I forgot to mention from my first time in there, it was crazy because I didn't have a bump yet, and I specifically remember this guy coming up to me. He's like, you smoke? And I was like, no, I don't smoke. And he was like, well, go ask him for a cigarette. And I was like, why would I go ask him for a cigarette? And he's like, just give it to me, and I'm like, they ain't gonna give me a cigarette, I'm pregnant. And he was like, oh, okay. So they had a lot of people who were trying to work the system while there. And in rehab, all we talked about were drugs. Because mainly everybody who came in was either there for Roxy's or fentanyl. And I learned so much. I'm not going to repeat it, but I learned so much about drugs in there. And it's unbelievable. I was on the phone with my husband, and I was like, hey, guess what I learned today? And he's just like, you need to stop. And I bunked with the girl this time who was coming off of a fentanyl high, I believe. She did not remember most of anything. Like, even some of her days in the hospital, she didn't remember. And she was there first. For both times, the other girl was there first. I came second, so I was technically their roommate. But anyway, yeah, this one girl, she seemed very nice, but she kept stealing my snacks. Like, if I had a snack and I would bring it to my room, she had one side, there was a bed with shelving, okay, next to it. And that's what you had. And then on the other side of the room, they had another bed and shelving. And I was in the room, on the side of the room that was closest to the wall. So she had no reason to go all the way that way, like by the wall, unless she was coming to steal my shit. And I caught her stealing like a moon pie from my snacks. And I'm like, I'm big and pregnant, and you're gonna steal my snacks. I'm big and pregnant, because they gave me extra snacks because I needed more calories. So, but I'm not gonna lie, y'all. I was not gonna let a freaking Twinkie stop me from getting out early. I was not about to do it. So I let it go. Sometimes when you're in those situations, just let it go. Let it go. You'll live a little bit of a happier life. I was like, they were giving me extra snacks anyway. All I had to do was go ask for one. Like, it was no biggie. She would steal it, I would go ask for one. Be like, hey, look, my roommate stole my Twinkie. Can I get another one? And they would be like, okay. But it was kind of cool the way this time, whenever I was in the hospital, everybody was very sweet, okay? Everybody was very sweet. And they would have a nurse every night and every morning have she would have a Doppler thing, the heartbeat monitor, and every morning and every afternoon they would check my belly, and I would get to hear the baby's heartbeat, because that was one way that they could make sure the baby was fine. So at that point, I was happy. I was happy to be able to at least have something to where they could be like, your baby's fine. And that made me feel 10 times better. I remember watching a lot of scary movies that time, and we were not supposed to be watching scary movies. I remember too, we were trying to put on, like, we're in the hospital, okay, we're bored. We're over here, we're trying to put on, like, what's it called? Hunger Games and stuff like that. And they're like, you can't watch that. It has killing in it. You can't watch that. It'll be a trigger for somebody. And while I understand that, we were all like, we were tired of, like, kid movies. You know, like, you get tired of watching Blue's Clues after a little while. You know, like, no offense to Blue's Clues. I love some Blue's Clues, but sometimes you could get a little worn out from watching that, and it made some of us a little sad because we had kids, you know, and it was something else. But I would say I was not judged as badly. Now, this time I was in the hospital for about a week and a half, and oh my gosh, when it was time for us to go, a whole bunch of us were being let out, okay? A whole bunch of us. We were all excited. And there was this one guy who was in there, and he wanted to be let out first, okay? He wanted to be let out first. He was like, no matter what, I'm getting let out first. And we were all like, yeah, okay, well, it depends on when your people get there. Because me and my roommate, our people were there, my husband was there, and her people were there to pick us up at the same time. He flashed out, and they had to call a code, and it was just like 3, 2, 1, and then the doors open, and there's nothing but these huge men from all these other units walking in. And one of them I recognized, and I was like, hey, how you doing? And he was like, hey, because he's seen me so many times because I've been in the hospital so many times, and he's been there. He's been there 3 times. 3 times, and I was like, I'm having a girl, and he was so excited, and he gave me a hug, and he was like, you doing good? I was like, I'm trying. And he's like, well, that's good. So he was very sweet. I'm not gonna say his name, but he was very sweet. I love him to pieces. But it's a little different being pregnant in the unit. Hey guys, I am so sorry that this video is so choppy, but I think I'm going to end my story here. And if there's anything you would like to talk to me about, if you have any questions, just feel free to message me or comment below. As always, like and subscribe, and I will see you later. Bye.